introduction of clinical data management and the tools we use for clinical data management. What are the regulations or guidelines for CDM, the process of CDM, how we'll collect the data, how we'll track the CRF, designing of database, data entry, medical coding, data validation, database logging, and what are the current opportunities which we have in career of CDM. So these all I'll explain you. And in case of any queries, you can please raise the questions in the meeting itself, and I'll be very happy to resolve your queries. Okay. So let's go to the introduction. And coming to the introduction, you must have heard about, just you may be knowing about when you have seen some vacancies or when you are seeing in the LinkedIn, you may be seeing so many different vacancies in the clinical research. One may be in the clinical research, or some other in the clinical data management, some other in the statistics, like that. So as like pharmaceuticals, how we have production department, quality assurance, quality control, packing, like that, here also in clinical research we'll have different kinds of departments. In that, one is clinical operations, where they will be involving with the sites in conducting of the clinical research, and one is a medical writing, where they will write the protocols or other related information to conduct the clinical research. And next is the clinical data management. Clinical data management is the one, and I can say all the departments are very crucial, but here in the clinical data management, the thing is, whichever the data we acquire in the study, those all data will be very that will be given in a very clean way, and here clean is nothing but without any queries and discrepancies. Okay, so that will be given by the clinical data management team. So once they collect all the data, and once they clean the data, and once they manage the data which we want for the study, that will be sent to the analysis section, that will be done by the statisticians, and they will get the results of the study. So this is the process which we will do in the clinical research in different departments. So today, now we are going to know about the clear information about what is going to be done in the clinical data management department, and what is the importance of clinical data management, and what is the process in that department. Okay, so coming to the just to know in a brief way what is clinical data management. This department, mainly what they will do is, they will collect the data, they will clean the data, and they will manage the subject data in compliance with regulatory standards. So here, however, we have certain rules for every process. Here also in the clinical research, we'll have some rules and regulations which we have to follow whenever we are doing the clinical research, or whenever we are collecting the data, or whenever we are managing the subject data. Here, subject is nothing but the patient who is participating in the clinical research. So as we are handling the data of a patient, we should have some, like, we'll have some rules and regulations which we have to follow. So here in clinical data management, their main role is to collect the data. Like, they will not collect by going to the patient, we'll have some tools to collect the data. I'll explain those tools also in the later slides. So mainly they will collect the data. After collecting the data, they will clean the data. Here cleaning is nothing but making the data clean without any queries or discrepancies. That means without any confusions or without any discrepancies, they will clean the data. And once they will clean the data, they will manage it, and they will send it to the statistics department for the analysis. So here the primary objective of the clinical data management is to provide the high quality data, because that data only will help us to know the safety and efficacy of the product which we have used in the clinical research. And as we are going to market that product, and as large number of people will be using that product, providing the data in a very clean way or in a very quality way is very important. That's why the primary objective of the clinical data management is to provide the high quality data, and not reducing, providing the quality data without any errors, and without missing the data as much as possible for the department. Okay, so to adopt, to meet this one, or to achieve this clean data, they will ensure their best practices as per the regulations, as per the guidelines which are there in clinical research. We have some guidelines like ICH guidelines. So by following those all guidelines, they will manage data. And for managing the data and for collecting the data, we'll have so many softwares and some tools are available, and also some provisions like some documents mainly, which will help us to collect the data as per the protocol. Those all will be available. Let's see in the next slides what those tools and what those provisions are. So these are some of the tools which we use for the CDM. So in CDM, as I said, you will collect the data. Simply, we will not go to the patient or we will not go to the hospitals to collect the data. We'll have a document called as case report form. In case report form, like this case report form, it will be like it will be designed as per the protocol. So as per the protocol, whichever the endpoints we want to collect from the patient, or whichever the data we want to collect the patient, that all data, the provisions to collect the data will be present in the CRF, like that will be designed by the medical writer. And as per those provisions and as per those endpoints, the data will be collected from the patient by the principal investigator who is conducting the clinical research. And that data they will enter in the tools, like however we have some tools. For example, in WhatsApp, we have WhatsApp which we are using in a daily way. So here, if you want to convey some message to other one, just will keep hi in the WhatsApp, and the next person immediately can see that message as it will deliver to them. Like that, here also we'll have some tools where site people will enter the data in the tool, and here CRO or the sponsor who is conducting the research, they can immediately see the data and they can analyze the data. Okay, like that we have tools. So these tools, they're like, we don't have any open source tools. We have some commercial tools which we have to buy from the software companies which are managing the tools, and we should use those tools. Some of the commonly used tools are Oracle Clinical, Clinitrial, Macro, Rave. You must have heard this name, in a very popular way, because whenever we have openings for the CRM, they will be mentioning whoever are having experience in Rave data management, they will be considered like that, because nowadays Rave is mostly used by the people in CRM, e-clinical suite, and we have another options like Clinevo, Cliniminds, like that. We have so many tools. Even you can search in Google, you can get some tools, and you can learn them also. Like in Google, some they will keep some videos how those tools are and how we'll manage the data. Those all things we can learn by seeing the YouTube videos. Okay, even you can search them. And here, all the tools, they will work in the same way, because every tool, the main objective of every tool is to collect the data and to clean the data, to manage the data. But only the thing is, maybe some functionality or some complexity, like some easy way of handling, that will differ. But all the tools, they will, their main motto is to collect the data only. Okay. Next, what are the guidelines, regulations which we follow and standards in the CDM? So mainly coming to the guidelines and standards in CDM, will as I said you, in the now in like mostly once after this COVID, everything has come into digital and everything we are using in an electronic way. So as we are following these all things, definitely there should be some rules and regulations, or some guidelines, or some standards which we have to follow whenever we are collecting the data, or whenever we are cleaning the data or managing the data. So these electronic records, whichever the electronic records we are maintaining to collect the patient data, those electronic records, every thing they will follow as per the code of federal regulations, CFR. And in that CFR, we'll have different parts. And for this electronic records, 21 CFR Part 11. This guideline is mainly that is the main one which we have to follow in the CDM. This demands the use of validated system to ensure accuracy, reliability, and consistency of data, with the use of secure computer-generated time-stamped audit trails to independently record the data and time of operator entries. So here, why we have to follow these rules? What these rules say? As I said, you CFR, that to 21 CFR Part 11, it is the main guideline for the CDM. So what they will mention is, in this guideline, what is their main, what is the main objective, or what is the main aim of this guideline is, whenever we are using these electronic tools for recording the data, that electronic tool should be validated properly. We should not use some local type of tool which can be accessed by anyone, which can be edited by anyone, which can be manipulated by anyone. See, if it is available to anyone, or if it is able to edited by anyone, everyone can manipulate the data. Everyone can edit the data, right? That's the reason here validation of that tool is very important. That validation should be very strict. For example, now in your phone you are having WhatsApp, or you are having Instagram. So you only can access that WhatsApp, or you only can access your social media accounts. No one can access unless and until they know your username and password. Okay, that is called as validation. Like that, here also for the tools whichever we are using, we'll give access of the tools to the site, to the people who ever are involved in the clinical research, and to CRO company who is managing the data. So here we'll be validating the tool in such a way that that will be available between these two people only. It will not be available to everyone in such a way that they edit. Okay, so that kind of validation is very important as per 21 CFR part 11. And whichever we are doing, for example, today you have opened the tool, you have seen this patient data, so everything will be recorded. That is called as audit trail. Okay, so that recording that data, like whoever have accessed, whoever which patient data you have opened, which patient data you have edited, everything will be available and everything can be known to everyone, such that some transparency will be maintained and we cannot manipulate the data. Okay, that kind of validation should be maintained whenever we are using the electronic tools in managing the CDM. Next, coming to the CDM process, what is the main process which we will follow in the CDM department? Coming to the process, as I said you, the main motto or the main aim of the CDM is to deliver the data which is error free, which is valid, and which can be in a very clean way, that statistics process can be done and we attain the results in a very reliable way. Okay, so to do these all things, some kind of different process is there. Simply collecting the data, cleaning the data, this is not the way. We'll have some different steps which we have to follow systematically, such that we can attain the clean data. In that one, the first one is review and finalization of study documents. So here, as I said you, first, whenever we are conducting the clinical research or whenever we are doing a clinical study, first we will design a protocol. In protocol, everything will be mentioned, what we are going to do in the clinical research, which tests we are going to do on the patient, what kind of data we are going to take the patient. So everything, like it is like a recipe for the clinical research. However, we find a recipe for a cooking, or for cooking a curry in the YouTube, like that in protocol we'll find a recipe to conduct that particular clinical research. So here in protocol, everything will be mentioned, like what data we have to take from the patient, at what time we have to take the data from the patient. These all things will be mentioned. As per that protocol, a CRF will be designed. As I said you, case report form. CRF is nothing but the case report form. This CRF will be designed as per the protocol, and this CRF will help us to capture the data whichever we want as per the protocol. So that data we can capture only from the CRF, and that CRF will help us to get all the data whichever we want to get as per the protocol. So this CRF, it will be reviewed, like it will be prepared by the medical writing team, but again it will be reviewed by the CDM team, because as the CDM team is involved in cleaning the data or in reviewing the data, they only will know which kind of provision should be there in CRF as per the protocol, what are the endpoints we have to take from the patient, and whether all the endpoints are there in the CRF or not. This can be known only to the CDM people, because we normally what we will do is just we will review, okay, as per the protocol every point is there, we'll see only that points. But from the CDM perspective, they will check everything, whether is it mentioned properly, whichever, whenever we are cleaning the data, can we capture this data properly, like that they only can know the problem which they will go through practically. That's why first they will review and finalize the study document, mainly CRF. During this, the CDM personnel identify the data items to be collected and the frequency of collection with respect to the visit schedule. So in every study, we'll have some visit schedules, and in different visit schedules, we have different data to be collected. So they will check whether all the items, like all the data, whichever we have to collect from the patient as per the visit schedule, is present in the CRF or not. That will be checked by the CDM personnel. A case report form is designed by the CDM team. A case report form is designed by the CDM team, as this is the first step in translating the protocol specific activities into data being generated. So as per the protocol, CRF will be generated. And once the CRF is generated, as per that CRF, again the tool will be designed. As I said, you will have some electronic tools. So in that electronic tools, whichever the data we want to collect as per the CRF, as per that, again, a tool will be designed in such a way that in the tool directly the site will enter the data. And again, after this, once this data, once the CRF is designed, and as per the CRF, once the database is designed, some other activities are there. Let's see those all process. First one is data collection. So here data collection is nothing but collection of the endpoints are the data which we want from the patient as per the protocol. So this data will collect in the form of a CRF, and this CRF will be like, it can be paper CRF or it can be a electronic version also. So you may get it out when it will be a paper CRF and when it will be a electronic version. So this depends on sponsor's decision. For example, some of the studies will be doing in only one site. So in such cases, if we are doing studies in one site, no need of going electronic version. We can simply prepare the paper CRF, we can print that CRF and we can give to the site, because only one site will be involved and they can do that process. But if multi-center trials, in some of the studies will do the, some of the clinical research will do in number of sites. At that time, collecting the paper CRF from each site, cleaning the data from the paper, this is a bit difficult for the CDM team. So in such cases, they will go for the electronic tool, which will be accessed by every site at the same way, in the same way. Okay. So this is the difference between paper and electronic version. The paper CRFs are filled up by the investigator according to the completion guidelines. So for completing the paper CRF also, there will be some guidelines which we have to follow when we are completing the paper CRF. In the CRF itself, that will be mentioned. So as per those guidelines, they have to fill the CRF. In the eCRF based CDM, the investigator or a designee will be logging into the CDM system and entering the data directly at the site. So if it is a paper CRF, they have to enter the data manually. If it is an electronic CRF, just simply they will log in by, they will have a specific user ID and password. They will log in by using their user ID and password, and they will enter the data into that tool. In eCRF method, chances of errors are less and the resolution of discrepancies happens faster. Because what will happen here, they will enter in the tool. Immediately, CRO people, they can open the tool and they can see the data and they can raise the discrepancies online only. Again, those discrepancies will be visible to the site people and they can immediately complete those discrepancies. That's why in eCRF, the process will be very fast. Entering the data, cleaning the discrepancies or queries will happen very fastly. But if it is a paper CRF, what will happen is they will enter all the data manually in the paper CRF. They will take a scan of the paper CRF and they will send that scan to CRO. Again, CRO people, they will review that scanned paper, and if they have any and if they have any queries, they will prepare a clarification form, and in that clarification form they will mention whichever the queries they have, they will mention in that data clarification form. They will send to site. Again, site will read the data clarification form, and whichever the queries were raised by the CRO, further they will give explanation and that will be sent to the CRO again will check and will clean the data. So this process will take 2 to 3 days of time, because they have to write it manually, they have to scan it and send to you. After sending it to you, data management people, they will review it, they have to raise the data clarification form. Again, the data clarification form will send to site will read it, they will resolve the queries, again they will send. So this is a time taking process. It will take some 3 to 4 days of time, or minimum 1 week of time. But here, if it is a eCRF, it's a very time saving thing, because here if you are entering, immediately that can be seen by the other person, and they will raise the queries whichever they have, and again those queries will be visible to you. You can resolve the queries. So this will be a time saving process. That's why in data collection, mainly most of the companies or most of the clinical research, they will be using the electronic version only. In some cases, as I said you, if it is a single center trial or the budget is very less, this is mainly as per the sponsor's decision. If the budget is very less, then they will go for the paper CRF. Next, CRF tracking. So once the data is collected, we will track the CRF. Here, tracking the CRF is nothing but collecting the CRF or collecting the data which is entered into the tool by the clinical research associate. So they will be from the operation team, because as they are the main point of contact with the site people, they only will be collecting data from the site. They only will be the main point of contact to the site, in speaking with them, collecting the CRFs from them. Everything will be done by the clinical research associate. So this clinical research associate, they will take the CRF which is filled by the site, and they will send it to the CDM team. Once it is received by the CDM team, they will track and they will retrieve CRF and maintain that record. So they will maintain a record. Okay, out of 60 patients, we have received 30 patients CRF. Still 30 patients CRFs are pending. Like that, they will maintain some track and they will start reviewing the data. CRFs are tracked for missing pages, illegible data manually to assure that the data are not lost. So whenever they are tracking the data which is at the CRF which is given by the clinical operations clinical research associate, what they will do is whether all the pages of CRFs are filled or not. That one will be checked. If any of the pages are not filled, that will be considered as a missing pages. And illegible data, here, eligible data is nothing but some data which is not understandable to the person. For example, if you are filling the CRF, it should be clear and it should be understandable to everyone. But if it is not understandable or if it is not clear, then it is called as illegible data. So first, these things will be checked by the CDM. In case of missing or eligible data, a clarification is obtained from the investigator and the issue is resolved. So in case if any missing pages are there, or if some of the data is like that writing or that kind of entering the data is not understandable to the CDM, then it will be communicated with the site, and they will take the they will take a proper explanation, or they will take the data again from the site. So once these all things are done, as I said you, database designing will be done. So as per the CRF, we will build the database. In the database directly. So if it is a eCRF, if it is a paper CRF, this CRF tracking will be done. We'll collect the CRF. We'll be asking if we are not able to understand something, we'll be asking to the site. These all things will be done. That means the CRF tracking will be done if it is a paper CRF study. If it is a eCRF study, immediately after designing the CRF, we will design the database. The database will be as per the paper CRF, and they will enter the data. Instead of entering the data into the paper CRF, they will enter into the database. Next, data entry. So as I said you, we have some rules and regulations for entering the data in clinical data management. So as per the regulations, the data entry have to be done by the site team. This is applicable only in the case of paper CRF. So whichever the guidelines we have to follow, that should we have to follow if it is a paper CRF. But if it is a eCRF, already we'll have some database. Database will ask you some questions. You should enter as you will be filling the Google Forms, right? In the Google Forms, you don't need to study anything or you don't need to read any guidelines. Just simply in the Google Form, they will mention what is your name, what is your degree, and what is your gender, what are your interests. Like that, they will give you a question. To that question, you will answer. Same like that, the database will be there. Like database will also be like that only. So in database, everything whichever we want to, whichever we have to capture, or whichever the data we have to collect as per the protocol, the provisions will be there in the database. Simply we have to enter the data into the database. Okay. The second pass entry made by the second person helps in verification and reconciliation by identifying the transcription errors and description caused by illegible data. So sometimes, so today you have shared one CRF with the CDM team. CDM team have sent some queries to you. So again, that means to the site people, again you have to modify the data, or you have to write the data again in such a way that it is understandable to the CDM. Immediately when you are writing the data again, you have to sign it whenever you have changed the data, that date, the date when you have changed, or the date when you have again corrected, everything should be mentioned. And this is mainly important during the audits and all. They will check why you have again done back entry, and you, when you have done again, why you have not entered the date. These all things will be checked, because in the clinical research, the transparency of the data or maintaining the data as per the guidelines is very important. Earlier studies have shown that double data entry ensures better consistency with paper CRF, as denoted by a lesser error rate. So whenever we are sending the paper CRF first to that CDM team, they will give some queries to you. Again, you will review that paper CRF thoroughly, and whatever the queries they have given to that, you will answer. Again, they will raise the queries. So up to whenever the data is clean, until then they will be raising you the queries, and you have to enter that, like you have to correct those data. Here you must be getting a question, what are the queries, what are the general queries that will be raised, and how the data will be cleaned. I'll give you a simple example. For example, there they have given body weight of the patient. In CRF, just simply if you write 50, we don't know whether that 50 is pounds or milligrams or kgs or grams. Okay, that's why unit should be mentioned very properly. And sometimes you will be mentioning the lab test. For every lab test, there will be a unit. So if you are missing that unit, it will be raised as a query to you by the data management team, because units are very important to know the accuracy of the data. So this is a simple query. And sometimes in CRF we'll have two important sheets called as prior medication sheet and con medication sheet. So in that, mainly some queries will be raised by the data management, because prior medication is nothing but the medication which the patient has taken before he or she has participated in the clinical research. Con medication is nothing but the medication which the patient is taking once she entered into the clinical research, or once she has enrolled into the clinical research. But what site people will be doing is, they will be confused, and they will enter all the data whichever the medications has taken by the patient in prior medication sheet and in con medication sheet also. At that time, more queries will be raised by the data management, because as they have to clean, as they have to manage the data in a very clean way or in a very accurate way, a very single point also they will check, and they will raise the queries. Okay, next, medical coding. So here medical coding is mainly meant to code the information which is related to adverse events, adverse drug reactions, or like mainly related to adverse events and adverse drug reactions only. Because whenever the patient is taking this medication, and if he is meeting some adverse events or adverse drug reactions, through medical coding they will code whether it is a severe medical reaction, whether it is a severe adverse effect, or medium adverse effect, or mild or severe. So these all they will code through the medical coding process. So for that medical coding also, we'll have an as per the regulatory guidelines, we'll have one dictionary that is called as MedDRA, and also WHO-DDE. These are the main dictionaries which we will use during the medical coding process. Okay. Next. And for this medical coding, you may get a doubt. The people who are doing the medical coding, are they suitable for CDM? Or if we want to do the medical coding in CDM, do we have a separate course of medical coding? Like that, you may get a doubt. But it's not compulsory that you should have medical coding certification if you want to join in CDM, because once you are doing the work, you only will come to know about that medical coding process, because this is a part of the CDM. This is not like we'll not completely do the coding in CDM. Just a part of what we will do coding in the CDM. That's the reason. Like separate specification and separate certification, no one will ask you when you are joining into CDM. Next, data validation. Here, data validation is nothing but validating the data. So whichever the data they have entered into the CRF, whether it is like the data which we want as per the protocol is present or not, and whether all the edit checks are present in the database or not. Here edit checks are nothing but, for example, as I said you, there we have weight, like we'll have some data like weight of the patient. If you are entering just 70, the database will not accept. It will ask you to enter the units. Like that, they will keep some edit checks. Until and unless you keep that one, it will not go to the next page. Like those edit checks will be kept by the database, and that we have to follow when we are doing the data validation process. And next, discrepancy management. Discrepancy management is nothing but, as I said you, whenever you are entering the data, and that data, whenever it is reviewed by the clinical data management team, they will raise the queries, whichever the queries they have. Even it is a simple query also, they will raise the queries to you, because their final ultimate goal is to make the data very clean, and to manage the data very clean, to send the data to the statistician in a very clean way. That's the reason. Even a single point of mistake also, even like if you are not keeping the point also, they will raise a query. So that query, whenever they are rising, that has to be managed, that has to be corrected by the site team, and again it should be sent to the cdm team. Next, once we collect the data, once we review the data, once the discrepancies are raised, and once the discrepancies are cleared, then we will do the database locking. Here you must get a doubt, what is meant by locking. Here locking is nothing but, whichever the database that was designed by the software team, in the database, once the data is very clean, we'll have an option like freeze the data. So we'll freeze the data, and once we feel that every data is clear and it is clean without any queries, then they will lock the data. Here locking means, once the data is locked, no one can again edit it. Even the cdm person who is reviewing the data also cannot edit it, because if this kind of editing, once we lock also, if it is present, then everyone can manipulate the data. That's the reason, once the data is clean and clear, they will lock the database. And once the database is locked, it is ready to go for the statistician for the analysis. And once the database is locked, no one can edit the data, or no one can manipulate the data. Okay. So after a proper quality check and assurance, the final data validation is done. If there is no discrepancies, the statistically analysis software data sets are finalized in consultation with the statistician. All data management activities should have been completed prior to database lock. So prior to the database lock, whichever the activities that should be done by the cdm team, everything should be done by them. And once the database is locked, no activity should be done by the cdm team. Here the activities means, if the cdm team, whenever they are collecting the data, cleaning the data, they will collect some documents from the site, like if any deviations, protocol deviations are there, the protocol deviation forms. If any adverse effects or serious adverse effects have happened in the site, those the documents related to those adverse events, everything will be collected by the cdm team also. So those all should be collected prior to this database log only, because in the tool, even it will give a date when you have logged the database. So after that date, if you are signing in these um, documents which you have, whichever you have collected from the site, like protocol deviation form or adverse effects form, that will become a big issue during the time of audits. That's the reason only cdm team has to be very careful that all the activities which they have to be completed should be completed prior to the database log.
फिर
once
तो
the
करना पड़ेगा, गुम कर दिया.
Once the approval for locking is obtained from all stakeholders, the database is logged and clean data is extracted for statistical analysis. So before we log the data, we'll send the data to the sponsor also. Sponsor will review the data, and he will check whether whichever the data they want got from the CRF or not. Everything they will check, and then they will confirm to log the database. So then only the database logging will be done. Before that, like it should not be own decision of the cdm to log the data and to send the data to the statistical analysis. It should be the decision of all stakeholders. Here all the stakeholders means site, sponsors, and CRO team. Okay, these all, they all should be the database logging. So as I said you, so these all are the process, whichever I have said you, these all are the process which we have in the CRM. Mainly, as I said you, data collection, CRF tracking, CRF like raising the discrepancies in the CRF, next cleaning the data in the CRF, then database logging. These are the main activities that are present in the CRM. So now you may get a doubt what are the opportunities we have in CRM and how we have openings in CRM and how the outside industry is there for the CRM. And I can like very confidently say you that now lots of opportunities are there for CRM and even for freshers or whoever are having 6 months of experience. Now, if you see the LinkedIn also, so many of the vacancies are for CRM only. Most of the vacancies are for CRM because if you see the clinical research, so many of the clinical research are being conducted by the out of country people. So all the operations kind of things, because in operations mainly we'll be interacting with the sites and we'll be doing the process, so that will be done by them. But whenever coming to data cleaning, data collection, this can be done online only. That's the reason that kind of works they are giving to the CROs in India, because as it is a kind of economical if they are giving to Indian companies. That's the reason they are giving for the data collection, data cleaning, statistical analysis, that kind of things they are giving to Indian companies. And that's the reason now CDM is having lot of demand, so much of openings. Even recently in so many companies there are openings for CDM, because most of the US companies or the other country companies, they are giving these CDM activities to the Indian companies only, as it is very economical. That's why now we have lot of demand for the CDM and for the statistics also. But for the statistics, they are looking for the experienced candidates. When but in CDM kind of thing, they are even taking freshers and whoever are having 6 months of experience also. Okay, so this is about the career opportunities in CDM. There are lots of opportunities in CDM, and in CDM we have different kinds of roles also, like data manager. Data manager is nothing but who is having experience, so mainly CDM manager. Database programmer, so as I said you, the CRF will be designed in the form of a database, so that database will be designed by the database programmer or designer. Next, a medical coder, who will code the medical coding things in the CRF. Next, clinical data coordinator. Clinical data coordinator is a person who will collect the data, who will review the data from the site, like who will review the data which was collected from the site. Quality control associate is the one who will review the data thoroughly and raise the queries. And data entry associate is the one, like this is the like this is the kind of opportunity in hospitals. So who will enter the data which is present in the CRF. So these are different kinds of roles which you can search in CDM. And like as I said, there lots of opportunities are there in CDM. And still, like after December also, so many openings you will see in CDM. This is about CDM and the career opportunities in CDM, the process which we follow in CDM management. If anyone having some queries, you can please ask. Can you please confirm me whether I am audible?
Yes, ma'am. Audible, ma'am.
Yeah. So you can ask me if you have any queries.
Hima Bindu madam, myself Kiran Kumar.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
evening.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for a wonderful session. That was a very detailed and very comprehensive session. Have gone in depth for our students and it very well. And if you're having any doubts, please ask madam. Madam is here to help us with her. And we would like to clarify all your doubts here. Yeah, you can share your questions in chat, ma'am. Definitely, Josna. Definitely. Madam also will answer that.
Yes,
Madam, there is a
someone
question.
who does MPharm in drug regulatory affairs, will he or she get work in CDM? Yes, anyone can do. Like, it's not in clinical research, it's not that if I'm doing clinical research, will I go for the only clinical research, or am I not eligible for the clinical data management? It's not the thing. If you are learning about the ICH guidelines, you will be eligible to attempt the interviews for regulatory affairs, for clinical research, and for clinical data management. As I said, you in every interview they will ask you some basic questions about clinical research, like what are the phases of clinical research, what are the ICH guidelines. If you read the ICH guidelines, most of the things you will come to know. So mainly I suggest you read about the ICH guidelines thoroughly. They will have, like, we have some 40 pages of ICH guidelines. Read all those guidelines and like basic information. What are the phases of clinical research and what the activities will happen in clinical research? That kind of knowledge is important, and you can attempt regulatory affairs, you can attempt clinical research, clinical data management also. Only for the statistics, we should learn the software SAS. That's it. After B.Pharm, see how to get a CDM job. So you should be checking the CDM, or like you should be checking the LinkedIn, and even if you see RISE trainings, they will be showing you the placements if you are taking trainings with them. Like that, you will get an opportunity if you have some guidance, because nowadays getting a job without a guidance is difficult. That's the reason. And, as per your convenience, if you are okay to join, you can join, and you can take the guidance of Kiran sir and some others in the RISE trainings.
What is the entry level salary for the CDM?
Minimum basic pay will be 25,000.
Okay, ma'am.
If it is a startup company, that will be less, like 15,000, like that. But if it is a MNC company, surely you will get 25,000, 25 to 30 also.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, could you please share this material?
Yes, sure. I'll share this material with RISE trainings team, and they will share you the material.
Hi, thank you all. So if you have any other questions, please ask ma'am. So, okay. Please once again explain how to do CDM after